Well, everybody, welcome back from our spring 2023 trip to Utah. What a great trip, and mostly a great trip, I think, just because of the great group of people that went by. I put together this short video to show you what we did and to share some of the great pictures that everybody took. This is the first picture here. This is a picture of us in the kind of surprisingly hard Canaraville Canyon, or at least surprisingly wet canyon. We had we planned our trip really well, and we pretty much executed it as we thought we would. We started out in Colorado and we drove to Grand Junction where we picked up Harry, and then on to Green River where we met up with Mike. And let me show you some videos from the first day and some pictures. Hey, so we head out to southern Utah tomorrow for our spring trip, and yesterday here in Colorado it was a warm 85 or 88 degrees and sunny, and in very Colorado spring fashion today it's 35 degrees and dumping heavy snow. So we'll see how the pass is over Highway 70, but this has happened to us many years when it's the weather seems bleak and not good for camping in the Front Range of Colorado, and then when we come over the hill down into southern Utah, it's beautiful and sunny. So we'll see how it goes, but we're taking the trip no matter what. Here we go. So by the time we got going the next morning, you can see these are the lovely flat irons overlooking Boulder, and there's a coating of snow, but the sun is shining. On the way up, we went up Coal Creek Canyon and we saw some mountain goats. So that was pretty neat. They were all over the road area. And then, sure enough, as we started to climb an elevation, here we are headed over almost at the tunnel on Highway 70. As you can see, it's snowy and cold with the snow plows out and going, and we hope for sunshine and happiness in southern Utah. And sure enough, by the time we came over the hill, and this is gypsum, the weather was clear again, and we actually had pretty good weather, although very wet and relatively cold for the time of year. I think it's just been a wet, cold year in general, but much better weather all through the rest of the trip. And so we met up at the inn right on the Green River, and here's the crew. So Clark, Jeff, Mike, Harry, and myself, and you can see most of the guys are built for running, and I'm built for running into things. So I appreciate everybody's patience as I hobbled along behind them, and we had a great trip. We had dinner at the inestimable Ray's Tavern, as we always do when we're in Green River. So start of a good trip. We started out just great and on schedule. So the next day we got up bright and early, and we headed into the Horseshoe Canyon portion of Canyonlands. Just to show you, here's Green River, and let me zoom in a little bit. And you see it's a relatively short drive. We actually took the dirt road down and just parked kind of on the edge of this canyon. And it's a really interesting area. There's a couple things. So just to give you an idea, here's Earth, and there's Green River that I just talked about. And if I kind of come in, you can see here's Horseshoe Canyon where we hiked, and this is our track. I'll show you a little bit more of that in a second. So we parked up here at the top on the upper right, and then we hiked down into the Grand Gallery. Just to give you an idea of what else is in the area, there's two things. One is called Cowboy Cave. So Cowboy Cave is right in here. It's showing wrong in the map here. So this is kind of a way into Cowboy Cave, and the cave's actually right here. And they found some of the best artifacts in the whole plateau for the Basket Maker or the Barrier Canyon Indians, including some figurines and all kinds of things like that. And here's a look at some of the things they found in the cave when they excavated it in, I think, the 1960s. So you can see there's some, really interesting, some sandals, some baskets, and then some stick figures. And also I believe there was some non-fired clay figurines, and there's a picture of the cave. So Park Service won't tell you where this is, but it's relatively easy found if you look, and relatively close to where we were. The other kind of interesting thing is Blue John Canyon is very close to where we were. So let me see if I can find it here. Blue John Canyon, of course, being of Aaron Ralston cutting his hand off fame. So here's where, again, on the right side, here's where we parked, and the black is where we hiked, and then Blue John Canyon is right here. This is the start to Blue John Canyon. You can see it becomes a slot, and then this is the actual site of Aaron Ralston cutting off his hand. So it's only about 5 miles south down that same canyon where we were. Kind of an interesting area. So here are some pictures of our hike. So this is sitting at the top, and this is looking down into Horseshoe Canyon. And here's our intrepid group of explorers, headed down. You can see there's a number of people. We actually ran into 3 rangers, 1 ranger and 2 volunteers, and they were kind of snowbirds. They live in I think Oregon, and come down to Arizona or someplace warm for the winter, and they spend a week here being guides. And so one of them was at the first petroglyph site, and the other one was at the Grand Gallery. We walked down to this water tank. Kind of an interesting story in the water tank. There's a water tank, and then like a trough for feeding cattle, and there's a pipe that goes all the way down to the river, which is quite a ways. And the pipe actually came from Standard Oil, that thought this was a oil exploration area from the other side of the canyon, and the ranchers repurposed it to bring water up to their cows. I tell you, cows can live anywhere if they have water. And here we are coming down. That's Clark and myself. Relatively steep, right? 750, 800 feet down. Good picture of Mike. He looks happy. There's a selfie of the team walking down the canyon. Just a quick look. We actually got lost, or I should say got lost. We got off trail. If I look at our initial descent, you can see, here's where the cars were up here, and we, just about a third of the way down, we took a wrong turn and realized it, and then came back, and then we walked down the relatively steep side canyon to the wash. And we saw, for the first time I've ever seen, we saw a coyote. So I've never seen a coyote in the area. There's Harry, and then here's a picture of the very not afraid of people coyote that we saw. So he was off hunting for something. Looks like he's pretty well fed. And we came to 3 sets of just really good petroglyphs, right? So this is the first one, and there was a lady volunteer who told us about him. Good views, a lot of pictures of these. These are some of the best petroglyphs I've ever seen. Especially the Grand Gallery is probably the best view I've ever seen of petroglyphs. This is another look. There's Jeff in front of the Grand Gallery. Jeff hates pictures without people in them. So here you go, Jeff. Another look at the Grand. Actually, I think this is the alcove. You can see, here we go. Yeah, this big alcove, and then inside the alcove are petroglyphs and pictographs. This is part of the Grand Gallery. These are more life-size, so they're really big, just like the harvest scene in the maze, which we hiked out to some years ago. Here's all of us looking at the Grand Gallery eating lunch. And there's a picture of the gallery itself. And again, those are relatively life-size, so just a really big set of panel of in this case pictographs. Here we are coming down. So we made our way back up to the rim, and we camped right on the rim. So it was really pretty. You can see Horseshoe Canyon stretching down, and all of our tents are here. And I'll tell you, we have never eaten so good as when Jeff cooks. So here's dinner. Like rice and some great pork and a grass, as Harry says, the sprouts, and some avocado and a fried egg. It was such good food the whole trip. I always gain weight in these trips. Thanks, Jeff. Just because the food's so great. Here we are, all enjoying a martini and a glass of wine, and eating dinner. And then we had the fire. There's a good shot at Clark looking at the fire, and we finished the night and slept in tents right on the edge of the canyon. Great day. Day 3 was mostly a driving day, and really beautiful. It encapsulates kind of my 3 favorite drives in Utah. So, we started up here in the upper right at the Horseshoe Canyon, and we drove kind of the relatively uninteresting bit into Hanksville, but then boy, does it get really interesting. And I'll do my best to show you on Google Earth, but it just doesn't do justice to the verticality of the terrain, right? So my 3 favorite bits, so from Hanksville through these great domes of Fruita and Torrey, and then that's my first favorite section, and then from Boulder to Escalante, right on the top of the ridge, is just amazing, and then down through Bryce area, and then into Zion, right? And this was 6 hours of driving, and it took us 9 hours, so we were stopped 50% of the time, and it felt like we just didn't stop at all, and we really rushed it. And to do this again, I think we would do this in 2 days, and we stop in Kodachrome Basin. We had planned on stopping in Kodachrome Basin, but we didn't because of time. But it's just so pretty, and it's one of the most beautiful parts of the world. So I'll do my best to show you. We didn't take a ton of pictures actually, but I'll show you some of the pictures, and I'll show you what it looks like on Google Earth. Starting in Hanksville, you go along a riverbed, and the cliffs just change color like crazy, right? So you can see here they're in the beginning they're kind of red and red and white, and this is a little bit like the Canyonlands National Park kind of variety. And I'll tell you, Google Earth is pretty good, but it just doesn't do it justice for how pretty it is when you're actually there. And you can see some of the strata there, and then they change to kind of a yellow and gray. Let me move over to some of that a little bit, kind of come down. You can see you get these gray and yellow cliffs that you're driving through, really interesting. And we stopped at a bunch of places to take a look, and then you go down, and again you get these more yellow cliffs, really interesting. And like the computer does not do a good job of showing how vertical and pretty all this stuff is. And so you go along, and after the cliffs, then you get into, this is Capitol Reef National Park, and boy, is it just beautiful country. So you can see we're here. You are coming into the national park, and let me zoom down here just to give you an idea. It's so beautiful. Going through these sculpted sandstone canyons and whatnot. It's just an incredible drive. So you follow again the riverbed. There's fruit trees. Apparently there's been fruit trees here for a long time. We stopped at one spot and looked at petroglyphs from 8,000 years ago. Spring Canyons. This is all the national park, and my goodness, is it pretty. You see, then you finally get into the deep reds when you're on your way out of the Capitol Reef part. And then we turned left, and we went down to the town of Boulder. This is Torrey right here on the right, and then we go through the mountains, right? So we were in real Canyonlands, and all of a sudden you go up into the mountains. There was snow everywhere, and you do this this relatively mountainous drive. There's some great views. You see, you turn over here. We stopped a couple of times. These are the Henry Mountains out here in the background that you can see. And real aspen pine forest kind of stuff. And you come around and you go down to Boulder, Utah, and we stopped in Boulder for lunch. And so you can see you go down to Boulder here and you just take a right. And we stopped. Where did we stop? Stopped right here at this little restaurant right here. Had a hamburger. And then we did this inestimable drive from Boulder to Escalante, and it's not super long. And they only completed this road in like the mid 1980s. Before, it was a gravel road that was like 30 miles. And what happens is you kind of climb up a little bit, and then you go along this ridge, and you can kind of see the ridge here right in vertical of the screen. And there's this one section that's just jaw dropping, and it's scary to drive. Right? You can see they've actually had to grade down the ridge so that they can fit the road on there. And again, it doesn't look so scary on the computer, but my goodness, right? The driver cannot be doing anything but paying attention to the road. It's this devil's backbone kind of place, and so that is just beautiful. And there's great views dropping off to both sides, and then you come down through. There's some great falls that we hiked out to a while ago called Calf Creek Falls, and then you come up, and like I said, this is just such pretty area. You come up around this corner, and there's this really odd tea house or coffee house called Kiva Coffee House. And I think out of the many times we've driven past, we've been able to stop there once. It's only open a little while, but we had a coffee or something like that. But it's just kind of an interesting place, and doesn't do justice from the pictures. You come up, there's a viewing area up here just to give you an idea how pretty this is. It just goes off into forever of sandstone. It really would have been great to take a couple of days and do this drive. We felt like we really rushed it to do it all in a day, even though it was only 6 hours drive. It just, it goes through worlds and worlds of scenery. So if I come back around, and then we went along to Escalante, right? So this is the town of Escalante, and Grand Staircase Escalante National Park is off here. We spent a bunch of time there right before they opened the park, actually, and you can see off to the left, this is the Cairo Parawetus Plateau, or the 50-mile mountain that's called. There's a rumor that there's a golden, statue of Jesus or something there that you can go maybe find. They've been looking for it for a long time. The Escalante River comes down through here. This is where the Golden Cathedral is, and a Phillips Arch that a couple of airplanes have flown through. We did some great hikes in this area. So this was a really pretty section. And then we kind of go a little bit more mountains again into Zion. So here's, again, starting in Escalante, you can see we go up through, we go up a little bit higher through some mountains, and we end up actually in Bryce National Park, and you drove through. We didn't go into the park, but you can see we drove right through the park. There's the pretty Bryce Canyon that we've been to many times, and then you come around and through another couple of mountain passes, and take a left, and then you go down this big valley along here, and you turn right at what's called Mount Carmel Junction, and then you go into the beautiful Zion Park, and this is where that tunnel is. And you go through the tunnel, and they have these holes cut on the side of the tunnel, and as you're looking outside of the holes, you can sort of see these huge walls coming in, but you can't quite see them because you're driving, going fast, and you come out, and there's this beautiful, beautiful canyon. So this is this is Zion, and I'll show you a couple of pictures. What a really beautiful bit. You can't get into Zion anymore in the main season without taking the shuttle. So you see the main canyon is here to the right, and really we can just drive through the tunnel, which is the tunnel's right here. And you come around this, you come here, let me see. So here's the main road, and the tunnels through the rock down here, and then you can see the switchbacks going down, and there's this beautiful, beautiful set of canes that you go in, and then you have to turn left to go out, and then you're in Hurricane St. George area. So give you a couple of pictures that we took. You can see this is near Bryce, and this is very much kind of Bryce-like formation. Really pretty. It's a great picture from Clark, I think. Good picture of Harry here. This is some of the view down. So you can see, like I showed you on Google Earth, it kind of looked interesting. Like it's all just vertical like this. And, it was a whole day of this kind of scenery driving through it. And what a great trip. This is 4 of us on the way into Zion. There's this famous checkerboard kind of formation that you can stop and take a picture at. Another view, this is coming out of the tunnel and looking at the big walls of Zion, really beautiful. Another view, this is, so the canyon would be, Zion Canyon proper is to the right of that. And of course we come down the hill and turn left into the city. We came down, and then we went to this place called Tocqueville, and we wanted to go to Tocqueville Falls, which is something I'd read about a couple of times, never been there. Kind of a medium hard 4-wheel drive road. Mike's All Road we had to abandon Mike's Audi All Road on the side of the road on the way up. You can see there's kind of pretty Tocqueville down there, and we climbed up the mountains really quickly, and it wasn't super hard, but it was hard enough where you need to have a reasonable vehicle, a lot of clearance to get in there. And so this is what we were expecting. This is a picture I found on the internet of Tocqueville Falls, and it's just this lovely, little falls. It's considered Utah's best swimming hole, right? So, a lot of times in the summer, people are, kids are swimming and frolicking around in the falls. Here's another picture, quite common. It's all BLM land, so you can just camp right there. So this is what I was expecting. What we got was just a raging torrent of water. So this is a look at it. There was a lot of water in Utah. So there was, I'll tell you, no swimming in this thing. And you see pictures of people driving across this. So if you were to drive your car across that, it would end up at the bottom of the wash. It was just rolling. And here's some drone video of the running falls. So here you can see it is just rolling as far as water goes. And there's no swimming in this pond, but it was interesting. And we camped right on the edge. Lighting's not great for this. Is the early morning right when we got up, but you can see this is not a place to frolic with your children, at least at this kind of flow rate. I suppose in the summer it slows down. So it was super interesting. But man, what a what a big water year for Utah. But all the drought is abating. So for day 4, we started at Tocqueville Falls, and here's the Google Earth picture. You can see that it's kind of a dulcet pond in this picture, but definitely not for us. And so we got up, we pitched camp, and we broke camp, and then just to give you an idea where we went. So if I kind of zoom out here, here's this valley. There's Tocqueville Falls, and here's Tocqueville. And what we did was we actually drove up and along this ridge, and then down into the canyon and out this creek, Spring Creek, right? It was actually relatively hard. And then we got onto the Highway 15, and we moved up. We drove up to Canaraville, and let me show you that. Although one interesting sidebar, there is a ejection seat test facility, or hypersonic, supersonic test facility. So again, there's Tocqueville Falls. Then just there's this mesa here, and it's relatively easy to see. But there's essentially this 3-mile long runway on here that there's a track, and they strap a rocket to it and test aircraft ejection seats. And so this belonged to the U.S. government until I think the 60s, and now one of the aerospace contractors has it. You can see the when you look up coming from Zion, you can see the observation towers up there, but relatively close to where we were. So anyway, we came back to the highway. I always love it, these 4-wheel drive cars. They do this hard 4-wheel drive stuff, and they come and they do 80 miles an hour on the highway like nothing ever happened. So it's this little town of Canaraville, and clearly this Canara Creek is the water supply for the city. And what you do, this is a private place. You pay for tickets. They're like $12, not much. A nice little facility. They have water and stuff. So a little parking lot here and restroom, picnic tables, and you check in, and then you walk up this fire road to the water tanks. This is a water supply clearly, and then along this road. And then you get into this canyon, and just like Tocqueville Falls, it's just a lot of water this year. They kind of talked of it as kind of an easy little romp, and it was a much more, at least wet, if not challenging, trip than all of us thought. And so you can't really tell from the Google Earth pictures, but this is all slot canyon in here. And like I said, from the descriptions, it seemed like a little bit more of a romp than it was. Felt a little more serious, but really pretty. So let me show you. Here's pictures, and I have some videos too. So here it is coming in. You can see there's a nice access road because it's the water supply. And we're hiking along the road. And you see there's a fair amount of water running through the creek, but didn't think much of it. Nice trail beside it. There I am. This must be in the beginning of the hike because I look happy. And then you get to the water, and it was hilarious. Everybody was trying to keep their feet out of the water at first, and of course you end up living in the water for the next 4 hours. And you spend most of the time walking up this pretty fast running creek. I think this was everybody's favorite in the long run, at least judging by the number of pictures everybody took. There's Jeff moving along in the early part. And, like I said, it doesn't look like much. And then you hit, real water. You're walking in the water. See, there's crossing over. There's relatively, you had to pay attention, right? It was good to have walking sticks to help your balance. You can see there's Mike trying not to fall over in a place where you were out and then had to get back in. And then you get to narrows, right? And these are like proper Utah narrows, all the water's running through there. You're walking through the water. And this continued for the rest of the hike we went to the lower falls. There's also an upper falls that we did not make it to. You can see really just pretty legit, typical Utah slot canyon, but with a lot of water. Usually the slot canyons, Clark and I have done a number of slot canyons, including some technical ones, and there's almost never water running through them. There's pools and stuff like that, but running water is uncommon. You can see all the water runs between the walls, and you got to walk through it. It's a little bit of a challenge to keep your balance and not fall over. I don't think anybody took a dive. So you go along, really pretty slot. It gets in there. You can see a fair amount of flow coming down into the slot canyon. Another good view. And then it gets just deeper and deeper, right? So here's another one. We're coming out, then coming back in. All of our feet, we couldn't feel them at all, right? They were completely numb, and they were numb for 3 hours, right? They felt like clubs at the end of my knees. It was a really funny sensation. And this is a stock photo from the internet, and this is kind of what I expected, right? Just a little bit of water coming down. Maybe it gets your shoes wet, sort of thing. But here's what we got. We got just a much more serious flow. By the way, this is the old ladder, and this is the new ladder. They dropped that in with a helicopter, I saw. And this is the lower falls. And again, it's a relatively, touchy kind of thing to get up there. It was really fun that you could do it. There's Clark and Harry at the top of the ladder trying not to fall over down the falls. And there's Harry up at the top. Here's Jeff, I think, coming down. This is the farthest we got. I talked to a kid who went further. Let me show you. There's if you kind of turn your back to where the picture just was, you can see there's this other little falls, and there's this log and snow, and you can climb up there, and you can go another probably almost a mile before you get stuck. And there's an upper falls that go, but we weren't up for it. We were all cold and all that. Just a really beautiful day, and kind of surprising, right? It was kind of an interesting diversion, and We didn't quite expect it to be as good as it was. And let me show you some videos. So here's, kind of early time, good flow, but, kind of dulcet tones of water. Didn't seem like that much. And then, you can see then we're all of a sudden we're really walking. I made fun of Jeff because in the beginning he kept taking off his shoes before going through the water. I'm like, dude, your shoes are going to get wet. And of course you can see they were wet for hours. It was funny. And then, you can see it got a little rougher. And then, finally when you're at the end, it is really rolling and you're trying not to fall over and slip down the waterfall. So, just a really interesting trip and great, really a lot of fun. After this, we went down to St. George and stayed in a hotel, and to take a shower and clean up. And the only disappointing meals we had, by the way, were in town in St. George. Otherwise, all of Jeff's cooking was completely great. So this was the first couple of days of the trip, and kind of a surprising but also fun trip up to Canara Falls. So we spent the night in St. George. It was nice to get cleaned up a little bit. And I'll tell you, St. George is building. It is the fastest growing metropolitan area in America. And boy, you can sure see it. It's just growing like crazy and seems to have relatively low focus on zoning and stuff like that. It's a little bit of a mess, but there's just so much going on. You could see a lot of people moving here from California and all that. And so we went to the right nearby Snow Canyon State Park. And so you can see it here. Quite a pretty state park, and you can see it's a lot of volcanic kind of activity, and small little state park nearby. I got the only campsite available in a 3-month period, and we checked. Here's the campground in here, and we checked in, and we basically hated it. Right, there are all these rules, and you're parked, like you can see all the campers are parked right next to each other, and it's really made for campers and kids and stuff like that. So we said, you know what, it's not really for us. We checked out, and we did go on a nice hike, and to these lava tubes. So let me show you that. So we went over, here's the lava flow trailhead, and then we walked along into here, and there are these interesting lava tubes. So here are some pictures. This is overall the park. You can see just beautiful, right? There's a great road. There's really just a really nicely done park. Here's one of the lava tubes. Clark's walking down in there. You can see this one. I think this one was a dead end, but Clark and Mike did one that actually went in a circle. So they just kept walking and ended up in the same place out. I didn't go down. I wasn't feeling good. But just a pretty little park, and but we decided not to stay there. And so what we did instead was we went back. We did a little bit of the park, and then we went back to Zion. We felt like we had really rushed it before, and so we came back out and we did the Zion Road up through the tunnel. Let me show you where that is. So back up to Zion. So here's St. George, and then you go along to Laverca and Rockville, Springdale, and then here's the Zion Canyon, right? And so you can drive in, and like I said, you can't go down the main canyon. This is shuttle territory. We'll do that next time, but you can go up this road, and we had done this the day before or 2 days before, but we just felt like we kind of rushed it. So you can see you go up the switchbacks here, then you go through the tunnel along here up to up to the top, and then it becomes city after that. But there's we stopped at a pretty little river. I'll show you here. So this was just off to the side of the road. And hey, what a beautiful part of the world. You can just stop randomly anywhere and have just some beautiful area. So we had good good scenery, really interesting stratified rock. We knocked around the river a little bit, took a break. Just had a great time. And then for the last night, because we were not going to camp in the state park, we had to decide where to go. And so I did a little bit of looking on the internet, and we took our luck with some national forest land. And let me show you that. So let me try to give you a little sense of where we camped. So this is St. George down here in the lower left, and then Sand Hollow State Park. That's actually a lot of great four-wheeling and stuff. There's a YouTube guy called Matt's Off-Road Recovery that they do a lot of stuff in Sand Hollow, just right by the city. Here's Snow Canyon up here on the left. This is where we started. This is where we're gonna camp. And I looked a little bit of internet research on my phone, said that this area here near Leeds Creek was interesting, and they had these 11 campsites that were kind of it was like you can't camp anywhere but the campsites, but they're free and open. So we drove up here. There's kind of a nice houses community going up, and then you're in national forest. It's a little higher. It was cold. It was the coldest night we had, and we drove by all 11 campsites, and none of them none of them were open. They were all full. So we just kind of on a guess, we said, well, there's just unrestricted national forest here to the left, and that's this road. So we took this left mark, and the first real crook in the road right here is where we camped, and we got just a delightful campsite. Give that a second to load. We had a great little campsite in here, and we had a filet mignon from Jeff, and a good, albeit cold night. And so let me show you some pictures of that. So here's a drone view from our campsite. So I launched the drone, and it's about 500 feet up, and you can see St. George stretching around in the background. It was really pretty. Like I said, a little bit cold, but otherwise a great night for camping. And then what we did on the way back is we actually drove down this valley. And Harry had a flight to catch. I was a little stressed we weren't going to make it, but because the road was kind of slow. But we went all the way down that valley, and here I am messing up with the drone. I think I got the drone so far away it lost communication, and then I got it back. But you can see just nice national forest road, pretty forest, and we had a good night camping. And here's a video from Jeff.
Okay, Caesar salad. Filet mignon. Onions and squash. And then down here we have forbidden rice.
Good food as ever, and you can see here this is the prequel to the meal. Mike bought a nice Cote de Rhone, and Harry is making the ever-present Sapphire Martini. So we did not suffer for bad food or drink during the trip. So that was it. We got up in the morning, and like I said, we drove the long way out of the canyon, which was fun. And we got to Harry to the St. George Airport about 15 minutes ahead of schedule, which was terrific. And then Clark and Jeff and I, we were going to take 2 days on the way back, but we decided not to, and we just drove up Highway 15 and then over to Highway 70, and we stopped in Grand Junction for dinner. And of course, the weather was terrible going over the pass at night. And it was not only was it snowing and chain laws and trucks everywhere, but also it was dark and cold. So kind of a stressful drive back. Here's a picture you can see coming down the hill. Right, it was just atrocious weather for the time of year, but we made it in Clark's 4Runner, and Jeff made it back to Colorado Springs, and we all made it home safe. So what a great trip. Thanks everybody. I think in some ways this was kind of a sampling of all the good things you can do in Utah. We had a trip down a vertical canyon to ancient 10,000-year-old ruins in a national park. We had just mind-blowing scenery through several beautiful drives. We did some decently hard four-wheeling. We saw waterfalls. We went in a slot canyon. We walked up a waterfall. We did great camping. Just all the things that are fun about a Utah trip. So thanks again. I had a great time, and we'll see you next year.